Hello, Cleveland, and welcome back to another edition of the Dogland Podcast. This is sort of a bonus episode because we really didn't plan on doing extra episodes outside of the normal this week. But I'm your host, Jackson McCurry. Co-host Anthony Joki is joining me tonight. Anthony, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. It's nice to talk about positive breaking news for once. This week is off to a much better start than last week.
Well, so. We got some good breaking news. We got some bad breaking news. But yeah, I
Uh,
mean,
it was good for like an hour, I
yeah, right.
guess.
It was good for an hour or two, and then of course, then the bottom fell out as it kind of does. It's typical Cleveland though. So, Anthony, do you want to start with the bad or do you want to start with the good?
Let's get the bad news out of the way first
Yeah,
because I feel like we can somewhat talk about it because there's still a good chance that by the end of the week it'll be okay.
yes, hopefully. And I'll say hopefully just because of what was just reported right before we started recording. So, about around lunchtime on Tuesday afternoon, breaking news from Adam Schefter. Nick Chubb and Demetric Felton both tested positive for COVID-19. They were placed on the COVID reserve list. Monday, John Kelly, who I believe is on the practice squad, was called up a couple weeks ago for the Broncos game because of the injuries. He tested positive for COVID-19. And he was placed on the list as well, along with wide receiver Lawrence Cager, who's on the practice squad. So, because of the 4 positive tests, the Browns now go into enhanced protocols, which means that regardless of vaccination status, everybody has to get tested. It's all virtual meetings, and then when they're in the facility, they have to wear a mask. So, there's a good chance that this might not be the end of it, of the COVID-19 positives. Hopefully, these are just the 4. It's all contained and everything's good. But I mean, Anthony, after Nick Chubb's monster performance against Cincinnati, we already have Kareem Hunt out. I don't expect him back this week. I know a lot of people are hoping that because he's missed the 3 games needed for the injured reserve, I don't expect him to be back just yet. Right now, we're looking at a running back room of Dearness Johnson, Andy Janovich. Maybe they call up Johnny Stanton off the practice squad, but the running back room is looking very, very thin heading into a crucial AFC matchup this week against New England.
Yeah, good. Since Johnny Stanton wears 40, could he turn into Peyton Hillis for a week? But yeah, going in this week, only having Dearness Johnson. You talked about Chubb in the game he had Sunday, which was tremendous, and I believe it was John Kelly that almost blocked a punt on Sunday as well. So, obviously not having running backs, especially the top 2 guys, is not a good thing. But with the way the Browns were able to run the ball on Sunday, I think that they're still going to have a very good opportunity to do so. Dearness is better than your average backup. He proved that in the Denver game. So now that this offensive line is starting to get a little bit healthier and starting to get things back together, and now we'll talk about the other part of it in a little bit, but I still think that they're still going to be able to run the ball effectively with the Ernest. Now you wonder what they're going to do because if you only have him and then the 2 fullbacks, I can't see Dearness taking 50 snaps this week, but maybe you utilize somebody like Anthony Schwartz in the backfield, somebody like Jarvis Landry in the backfield to kind of help with the rotation back there that you would normally have when everybody's healthy.
Yeah, I mean, we discussed that in our group chat today. I know people mentioned free agent running backs. The Browns actually did sign a running back to the practice squad today. Brian Hill, who's been in the league since 2017, recently was with the Titans during training camp, but the last few years he was with Atlanta, and he was effective, averaging 4.8 yards per carry last season for them in a limited role. I think he's over 4 yards per carry during his 3 years there, played in 39 games. So he's a guy that, could get some snaps this week. He just turned 26 years old today. So happy birthday to Brian Hill. Welcome to the Cleveland Browns. So maybe, they call him up. I mean, he hasn't seen any playing time since the preseason with Tennessee, but this could be a guy that has a track record in the league. It's a limited one, but could be a guy that him and Dearness Johnson split carries this week against New England, who has a average run defense. So I would expect, the way this scheme is set up and the way it helps our running backs flourish in this scheme, hopefully Johnson and Hill can get the job done if Chubb and Felton can't go this Sunday.
Yeah, you really hope so. And, like I mentioned with the O-line getting healthier, I have more confidence that they should be able to, going into New England on Sunday. So hopefully, whether it's just Jordan Johnson or whether the guy they just signed is contributing, or if Chubb and Felton are able to get back. Since they're both vaccinated, they need 2 negative tests in 24 hours, and then they can rejoin the team. So hopefully, I know it's already Tuesday, but hopefully, by Friday and Saturday. I think they have to officially rule them out by Saturday, right?
Correct.
So, hopefully around that time they could get those 2 negative tests in and be able to get back for the game on Sunday.
Yeah, without question. Hopefully, these are the only positive tests because we know last year the Jets game, the wild card game, like we lost some key pieces in those games, and the Jets game was obviously the hardest because we lost our entire wide receiver room. But I feel like the organization has a plan for when this stuff happens. They were pretty good in crucial moments last year when COVID hit the organization. So I would expect, Kevin Stefanski, Andrew Berry, and them to have a solid contingency plan for situations like this.
Yeah, the Jets game still bothers me from last year, but hopefully this bad news isn't too bad, and by Sunday it turns positive. And I thought you were going to tell me the bad news today was Odell cleared waivers.
Well, it's bad because he could choose where he wants to go, but it's good for the Browns because they saved $3 million because they were able to make a contract settlement. So,
and that's how we'll talk about Odell on this podcast today.
yes, absolutely. So let's get to the good news and Anthony, it was so funny because I know you were working Tuesday morning. Obviously, we're recording on Tuesday night. Mike Garafolo of NFL Network. I get the alerts on my phone when the national writers tweet, and I get the thing, and it just says the Browns, and I'm like, okay, either something good's about to happen or something bad's about to happen. He deleted the tweet, and then like 10 minutes later, we get the breaking news, the good news, which is what we're going to talk about. The Cleveland Browns and Wyatt Teller agree to a 4-year extension, and I'm like, holy crap! Because Sunday night, me and Kay talked about it on postgame. I said the Browns need to find a way to keep both Teller and Bitonio because Teller is obviously going to be a free agent after this year, and Bitonio, I think next year is going on the last year of his contract. And lo and behold, the Browns were obviously working on it. They got the deal done for Wyatt Teller. He's staying with the Browns through the 2025 season.
Yeah. After having that phenomenal game, it's great to see him get locked up long term. It definitely provides some stability to the offensive line for years to come. I know there's other decisions and discussions they're going to have, in the next couple, this offseason and, within the next couple, in terms of, Conklin and Treader and, even Bitonio. But, having a guy like Wyatt Teller who, maybe if Bitonio isn't here long term, he's somebody that can switch over down the road and kind of be the anchor on the left side. But, to lock him up now is great news for his organization. And, they freed up a lot of future money by working the thing out with, releasing OBJ, Sheldon Richardson early on in the year. Freed up some money as well. So, they decided to move on from that and then go right away and invest in the offensive line. And, this offensive line has surely grown over the last few years from what it was. and they're just able to week in and week out just maul people up front. You heard Wyatt Teller talk about how the offensive linemen in the city are loved and glorified, which just kind of fits Cleveland's personality. So they have done a great job of being able to run block and protecting Baker. That's gotten so much better. So to lock up one of the anchors of the O line and somebody who didn't cost us much to get a few years ago. That's one of the few things that Dorsey did right was trade for Wyatt Teller. It's probably about like a 50-50 thing of a good move, bad move, but this was certainly one of the great moves that he made, and it certainly has paid off. And for 4 more years, they're going to have that guy on the O line, just continuing to maul people and spearing them, like he did to a Bengal on Sunday.
Yeah, that block went viral so fast, and so many memes and just everything out of that one block, which he was worried he was going to get called for holding, but not Jason Peters. I think it's Scott Peters. He's the assistant offensive line coach. He sent him a thing. He goes, "It was a legal block. Don't worry. You didn't deserve the rag if you did get one." So Wyatt seemed really proud of that block. But you mentioned it. Like, the Browns only gave up a 5th and a 7th round pick 2 years ago on cut down day to get Wyatt Teller. And I'm sure Buffalo fans are kicking themselves and like really angry at the front office because their line's not looking that great this year. And Wyatt Teller would probably be helping them right now, but we're thankful that we were able to get him when we did so cheap too. And then what he's done in the last 2 years, obviously, being able to become a starter halfway through 2019. And then when Bill Callahan came in as the offensive line coach, I think that even did more wonders to Teller's game because he said, and he credited him, he said the way I was able to work on my technique and refine everything, he said it made him better that Bill Callahan came to Cleveland. So what a great get that the Browns got a couple years ago and how much it's paid off. And now they were able to reward him with a new contract, which is phenomenal. Let's look at the details. Over the Cap and Spotrac both released the details earlier today. It's a 4-year extension worth $56.8 million. It's an average of $14.2 million per year. He got $16.5 million guaranteed at signing. He'll get another $12.5 million guaranteed next March. His 2023 salary will become fully guaranteed. But Anthony, Jack Duffin's our contract guru here at the Dogland. He broke it down actually right before recording, so it was perfect timing. Shout out to Jack. We appreciate you so much. He said it's effectively a 2-year, $28 million extension. There's 2 option years on the back end of it. With, there's good wiggle room for the Browns where they can get out of it. There'll be some dead cap those final 2 years, but it's a good deal, obviously, for the Browns. It's essentially a 2-year deal, like Duffin said. They rewarded him. Teller, he's one of the top paid guards now in the league. And I actually like this because they got it done, A, before he can even get to free agency, and B, before Quentin Nelson of the Colts' contract got done, because if Nelson would have set the market, there's a good chance Teller could have got more either from the Browns before he hit free agency or on the open market as a free agent this coming off season.
Yeah, looking at this contract breakdown, that cap hit next year is pretty small, but it really inflates the 3 years after that. You mentioned how they could get out of those last 2 years. It's right around the time where you would start to kick around the tires on a Jedrick Wills extension, which, the left tackles make a lot more money than guards. So, that's certainly give them some flexibility that way. You just have to continue to develop the other positions on the offensive line, depending on who is going to be here long term. Because I can't see, Conklin and Treader being here much more than a couple more years. I know both. I think both their contracts are up after next year.
Treader, I'll look it up while Just go ahead and I'll look it up for you.
Yeah, I think both their contracts are up after next year, so they're gonna have to start to invest, draft picks that they want into um, the offensive line. I know they have Nick Harris, who I think they believe in. And Hans has done a decent job. They do have Hudson. He's still a long ways away from being ready, but they're going to have to, make decisions down the road. But this contract gives them the flexibility to do that, while, like I mentioned earlier, providing some real stability where there could be question marks in a couple more off seasons.
Yeah, so you mentioned Conklin and Treader. I think they're going to move on from J.C. Treader this offseason. He's got $8.2 million they can create in cap space if they cut him with a $1.6 million dead cap hit. Like you, I think they believe in Nick Harris. You also have Michael Dunn, who we haven't seen this year, but he can play guard and center, and I think during camp he was taking snaps at center, so that could be an interesting battle next year, Dunn and Harris for the center spot, but I don't think Treader's going to be here moving forward. Jack Conklin, next year will probably be his last year. They can void the contract after the 2022 season. I would think they might try to sign him to an extension, especially if they're not sold on Wills, at least hold down one of the tackle spots, because he's only going to be 28 next year. So Conklin, there's a good chance, they could rework the deal and add on some more years, especially because he's playing at an all-pro level as well. They also need to keep in mind, but like I mentioned, Batonio, I think, is on his last year. Next year he is. So, and he's still playing at an all-pro level. He'll be 31 next year, but do they look to keep him? I mean, Batonio and Teller, are 1 and 2 right now in terms of guards, according to PFF. And they are, the front office is very analytics, metric based. You have the top 2 guards. Batonio's not sliding off anytime soon, I don't think. I think he's still got 3-4 years left in him. Maybe they try to work an extension with him as well. But, and if that's the case, then you move on from Conklin. You have Hans, and then you have Wills on the left side. You go and try to find a right tackle in the draft, or perhaps a younger option in free agency. So there's a ton of things they can do on the offensive line, but we know for sure Teller's going to be here. I would like to think Batonio is going to be here as well. And then they just have to worry about, essentially right now, right tackle and center going forward.
Yeah, it's where it gets tricky, right? Where you have a couple guys making a lot of money on the offensive line with other extensions on the rest of the team that are due. You have to be very, very mindful on where you spend your money. So, if Wills is the long-term answer, you're going to have to pay a lot of money to keep him. And that's not going to leave a lot of money for, Batonio and a center, so I could definitely see, like you, Cheddar not being here. Somebody like Jack Conklin either. So they have to, in this offseason, and I'm sure they've already have had these discussions, and you can kind of tell, I think, how the contract is lined up, that they think about these things far in advance because they are very smart and that's what they have to do. But I think long term, this O-line will kind of be in a position where you'll have a couple high paid guys, and then you'll have guys on rookie deals. And then when those rookie deals are up, the veteran guys won't be there, and then you pay the rookies or the younger guys, and then you draft to replace. It's just a cycle that you hope to continue to repeat for years and years. So it seems like they're in a good position now. We'll see if they're able to answer those questions about those couple of players this offseason and definitely next year too.
Yeah, I definitely think this offseason the roster is going to get shaken up a little bit. And, the fan base isn't going to like it, but at the same time, we're winning. So I trust this front office to make the right decisions and to keep the core talent here, and then just work their way around them and just to keep keep the train rolling and keep the winning going, because I feel like that's the ultimate goal. While we want one Super Bowl and it would be nice to have all these amass of talent at the same time, the team and the front office is thinking, well, we want to be contenders for 6, 7, 8 years and then have a chance to win multiple Super Bowls or get to multiple Super Bowls and AFC championships, because I think that's the ultimate goal.
Yeah, and and if they determine Baker's the guy, you want them to be a playoff team every single year of his career that he's here. So you have to maintain that flexibility throughout all those years, continue to draft well, continue to be selective in free agency to help your team, and you hope that the roster that you build continues to progress year after year.
So, Anthony, I asked this question on Twitter this morning after the Teller news broke. Which player is most likely to receive an extension next from the Cleveland Browns? I said, well, we had Denzel Ward and Baker Mayfield because those are the two obvious ones. And then I threw two other names in there. David Njoku, who the debate's been going on, and I think it will continue to go on throughout the rest of this season and into the offseason between Njoku and Hooper. Obviously, Hooper's contract has some wiggle room after June 1st next year. The way Njoku's playing, I feel like he's the better option at tight end long term. And then another name that PFF actually mentioned in an article where they predicted free agency contracts, and they actually were like almost 100% accurate on the Teller contract. But Jadeveon Clowney, he only signed a 1-year deal in Cleveland for worth about $10 million. They're predicting a 1-year, $15 million contract, but Clowney seems to enjoy Cleveland. He seems to love playing with Myles Garrett. He's being productive, and despite the injuries, he's playing through these injuries, where in Houston and Seattle, I don't think he was doing that. In Tennessee, for that matter, he opted to get the surgery last year on his knee instead of trying to play through it. Who do you think is next in line among those four to get a contract extension?
Well, I know what I answered in the group chat, but I answered the poll question differently. So
okay,
I said in the group chat that we have that I want them to do Clowney first, because if they're not able to get a deal done, it would cost, I think Jack sent the numbers, it was about $20 million to franchise him.
Yeah.
For next season. So I don't think you're paying $20 million a year for Clowney. With the regular contract, it's still going to be 14, 15 range. I'm not sure what the PFF article said as a prediction for him, but I would rather get that done first and get it out of the way, because if you're not able to get something done with Njoku, that franchise tag is only about $10 million, which is less than Austin Hooper's contract for next year. So,
and I don't think you'd have to franchise Njoku. I feel like you don't have to get to $10 million per year for him, just because the stats don't back it up. I feel like you could probably get Njoku around 5, 6, 7 million, maybe incentivize it a little bit to get to a certain point, but the stats don't back up him making big money on the open market.
The stats don't, but I think with all the other things he does, it might.
Unless a team is paying for what they think he could be, which I still think he could be among the elite tight ends. He's just in an offense where he's not going to be, because he's playing with two other solid tight ends in Hooper and Bryant.
Right. I think he has like all the potential to do that, and he does a great job and has grown tremendously as
a blocker.
Running routes. He's been able to do it all, and has certainly quieted the talks of him being a bust. He's done a great job. So that's why I answered the poll question. I think Njoku is the next one to get it. I certainly see him as a long-term answer at that position, especially over Hooper. I don't think Hooper will be back next year. And you go in with Njoku and Bryant, and you maybe find somebody in the draft. I know, I think there was that kid out of Nevada that's really talented. I can't remember what his name is at the moment, but anyway, there's certainly. I really feel like with what Njoku has done the last couple years, getting rid of Drew Rosenhaus was a good thing for him. I feel, and he seems to, there's all that talk this offseason, and all that noise has surely quieted down, and I really think that he deserves an extension with everything that he's been able to do, especially with the way he's been able to grow and develop over the last couple of years.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope they can come to some kind of agreement before he hits the open market. I know Brad Steinbuch from the OBR reported that they haven't had any substantial talks. Now, of course, there's still plenty of time, 4 months to free agency. It'd be nice to get something done before the season ends at some point. I pick Denzel Ward. I just think and this is barring, of course, any more injuries, but I mean, Sunday proved when he's on the field, he's one of the best corners in the league. I mean, obviously, the best ability is availability, and Ward, he misses his 3 to 4 games a year, but at the same time, some games he has started out slow, but after the first couple drives, he locks in and plays like a top 5 corner. And I believe in his abilities. I have since going back to Ohio State. He's perfect. He's one of our leaders on defense with Myles Garrett and with the other, the array of talent they have on that side of the ball. And hopefully Sunday was just a sneak peek of how they're going to play down the stretch. We'll see, because they're going up against a lot of talented teams down the stretch towards the playoffs, hopefully. But I just have a feeling Ward's going to ball out. He's going to stay healthy, and then the Browns are going to have to pay him. It's just going to be interesting to see how much and how many years they're going to give him.
Yeah. I'm not going to go into my discussion about Denzel and what I said in the group chat, but
no. What happens in the group chat stays in the group chat.
I'm not going to discuss that one. But it's crazy to think that he's like just turned 24 years old, and this is his 4th year in the league. I forget how young he really is, and he really hasn't hit his prime yet. You would think if they do extend him, I could see that contract lining up with Newsom's rookie deal,
potentially,
to where that way you're not spending a ton of money at that position, and that you also have to factor in Greedy Williams if he's able to continue to play well. Unfortunately, he got hurt on Sunday, but he's been really playing well the last few weeks. So, you have 3 guys here on defense that play really well at the cornerback position of late. I could certainly see like a 4-year deal that includes basically a 3-year extension that includes his 5th-year option next year, if they were able to get something done with him. That's probably as far as I would go, and I'm sure that they can get creative in, per game roster bonuses if he's active because of the injury concerns. So that way, they don't get stuck with that contract and it hurts them financially. So I think they're, all these guys whose contracts are expiring, I'm sure they're going to take a very hard look at it. I'm sure Denzel, like in our poll question, is certainly at the top of the priority. And I'm kind of curious to see what those results are, but I would imagine, he's certainly a popular guy. And after that performance on Sunday, only giving up that 1 catch, having to pick 6, the deflection that led to another interception. If he's able to play like that the rest of the season, he's going to get a hefty penny when it comes to a contract extension.
Oh, without question. I know you mentioned Denzel's only 24 years old. Njoku's only 25, and this is his 5th year with the Browns. Like, it's crazy how young these guys are and still are.
Yeah.
And, like, they haven't entered their prime yet. Like, I'm anxious to see how far they go in their careers, because we've already seen the arrays of talent for sure out of both of them, and they are just entering their mid-20s.
Yeah, if you could get these guys who are entering their prime on less expensive deals, you're really winning as a franchise.
Yeah, especially with the cap expected to explode over the next couple years as well. If they can be on relatively friendly deals, and that just opens up the cap space more to add even more talent to this core. Like, the possibilities are endless with this team. But
it's like the Jose Ramirez contract, right? You
yes.
extend them when they're young, and you look at the potential that they do have, and see year after year, it seems like Jose.
He's on the best. He's on the best contract in baseball. Like, you can't even
by,
argue with it.
by far, he has the best contract from the team perspective. Maybe not for the player,
Yeah.
but when you have a guy who consistently is hanging around the MVP ballot and discussion for the last 3 or 4 years or so, you're really winning as a franchise if you're able to financially control all that with a younger player.
Very true. So the poll results so far, and if anybody wants to go vote, it'll be up until around 9 a.m. Wednesday morning. Go to @JackMcCurry08 on Twitter. Denzel Ward has 39% of the vote. David Njoku has 32% of the vote. Baker Mayfield has 23% of the vote, and Jadeveon Clowney has 6% of the vote. And that is which player is most likely to receive an extension. So I think that obviously the majority of Browns fans that voted on this think Denzel Ward's next in line, and I would think so as well. Anthony, is there anything else you want to discuss on this episode before we get on out of here?
I don't think so. I think we're in for, or not us, but the listeners are in for a treat tomorrow with the guests that you have lined up. I don't think I'm unfortunately going to be able to make it for that episode, but I really hope you all listen to that one tomorrow, because it's going to be a great discussion with somebody who's going to help us preview the game against the Patriots on Sunday, and obviously talk about Baker Mayfield a little bit.
Yeah, Baker will definitely be on the agenda. It's Mark Schofield of the NFL Wire and Pets Pulpit, who's been on our show numerous times, whether it's talking about the Patriots, whether it's talking about Baker Mayfield. The last time we had him on, we were talking about Josh McDaniels and the possibility of him coming to Cleveland. And I can honestly say, thank God Josh didn't come home, because I feel like we're in a much better situation with Kevin Stefanski. But looking forward to the discussion with Mark as always. Be on the lookout for it Wednesday night, Thursday morning. Just depends on when I get it uploaded, but definitely keep an eye out on that. As always, you guys can follow Anthony on Twitter @AnthonyJoki. Joki is Joki. You can follow me on Twitter @JackMcCurry08, and you can follow the Dogland on both Facebook and Twitter. Just search the Dogland. And until next time, Browns fans, as always, go Browns.